Let's recite pranam mantras to Srila Prabhupada together. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhotade Shrimate Bhakti-Vedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesa Sundavade Paschachade Satadhanu Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama. This session is going to be a little bit longer, but probably a little sweeter, because there's lots of stories. Everybody likes stories, myself included. So, Bhakti Sandarbha, Anuchade 153, summarize the theme. There's a whole section of this Anuchade that just has a headline, simplicity. Simplicity is a nice quality. It's one of the characteristics of a devotee, or it's an item of knowledge. Devotees are simple. And simple doesn't mean simple-minded. It means they're not complicated. They're simple. They're straightforward. Another Arjavam is straightforward in all of their dealings. Very honest, straightforward Arjavam. Or a saying I grew up with was, Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple and difficult for the crooked. You heard that one before? Not heard that one? It's a good one. And it fits in with exactly what this Anuchade is. Here's a reference from this Anuchade where Jiva Goswami indicates the word Rijubir, Rijubi or Rijubir, and it means same thing, unpretentious, straightforward, simple. From 3rd Canto, Chapter 19. What grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as the personality of Godhead? The Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him. That's the straightforward, or Rijubir. That's the meaning, word for word. For protection. Resort exclusively to him for protection. So it's one of the 6 limbs. Vrikshishatiti Vishvaso, one seeks protection from the Lord only. Though the unrighteous man finds it difficult. Duradyam asadu bihi. The asadu finds it very difficult to take shelter of the personality of Godhead. So, this, another way of summarizing what this whole section, there's a series, it starts at 153, goes to 159, but Jiva Goswami, is describing once bhakti begins, because 141 is how it begins, and higher stages of bhakti, how they're made available. There's how bhakti-abhasa is so powerful that it can destroy all sins and attain the feet of Vishnu, even from lower than the human form of life. Would you like to hear an example? Here's an example. From Vishnu Dharma Purana. So there was a mouse from Vishnu Dharma Purana once upon a time, and he had this habit of climbing up on the altar, and at night when no one was around, drinking ghee from the ghee lamps. But one time the ghee lamp was lit. They didn't put the ghee lamp out, so he burned his mouth. And the wick got caught in his teeth, and he died. And in his next life, he became a queen. Or she, the mouse, became a queen. What a great, yet simple faith in devotional service. What does she do? Every day, faithfully, lovingly, she provided lamps, ghee lamps, for the deity. And at the end of life, she attained Vaikuntha. So unknowingly, even agyata sukriti, unknowing devotional service, or unintentional devotional service, even from a subhuman form. And there's several other examples, but that was a good one. And so bhakti has that, abhasa bhakti has such power. However, the theme is there's something that if you engage in devotional service knowingly or unknowingly, even in a subhuman form, it's powerful. Abhasa bhakti is very powerful. Shadow is powerful. But there's a problem if one makes offense. And one of the offenses that this Anucheta focuses on is the artavad offense. So that the offense against the holy name applies also for all forms of devotional service. But there's abundant scriptural references indicating the consequence of thinking the glories of chanting the holy name is an exaggeration, or artha vada, the doctrine of its exaggeration. It's nice, but it's an exaggeration. And examples and examples and examples from Scripture. Here's one. If a person hearing the various results of chanting my name has no faith and rather thinks the results are exaggeration, or artavad, uttartavad, I throw him in the greatest suffering, whereas limbs are afflicted with various pains in frightening samsara. Woo! And this is Bhagavan speaking to a sage named Bodhayana Muni. Mentioned, so this is from 153, Bhakti Sandarbha. Here's another. Even though the glories of Nama are factual due to this aparad of considering these glories to be artavad, we are unable to see the result of our performing bhajan, etc., etc. Many references. Here's something that's a commentary by Vishwanath from a verse from the Bhagavatam 2:3-34. Even if the neophytes, due to their being in the lower stage of devotional service, make a show of constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord because they commit offenses to the holy name, they cannot relish the transcendental taste of the holy name. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. They can, however, get in touch with a pure devotee of the Lord and rectify their bad habits. Otherwise, they shall continue to be stone-hearted and unfit for any treatment. A complete progressive march on the return home back to God, it will depend on the instructions of the revealed scriptures directed by a realized devotee. So the principle of Guru Sadhu Shastra is repeated over and over in the whole Bhakti Sandarbha, over and over and over. And then comes a nice, interesting section of consequences. If one performs some offense, and the stages of bhakti that begin with adau shraddha are interrupted because of not having proper faith in bhakti. Bhakti begins with adau, shraddha. But if one doesn't have sufficient faith in bhakti, even one may be performer of bhakti. There's consequences. And there's two really fantastic stories. Many of you know the story because it's a whole chapter is dedicated in Krishna book or 10th Canto Bhagavatam, King Nrga. And the story of King Nrga goes like this. In short summary, you can read the whole chapter. But King Nrga was particularly well known for being a giver of charity. Benevolent king, and he gave charity in a proper way to proper recipients, to brahmanas. And the number of cows he gave daily was a big, big number, and he really liked it. He was good at it. Now, later, in that chapter 64, he acknowledges, after he was delivered, he acknowledges that previously I was also engaged in devotional service. So he did both. Devotional service. He was a bhakta, but didn't have sufficient faith in bhakti. He had more faith in giving gifts or charity, specifically the charity to brahmanas. He had more faith in that, so he did that abundantly, and there was some paucity on his side of faith in bhakti. He just didn't have faith in it. He thought it was some kind of an exaggeration. This is real thing, give cows to brahmanas. So you know what happened. One fine day, out of the many, many cows he gave to brahmanas, by mistake, one of the cows that he gave to one of the brahmanas wandered back into the herd of cows. And he gave the same cow to another brahmana. And then the other brahmana was confronted by brahmana number one and said, wait a minute, that's my cow. He said, no, it's my cow. The king gave me the cow. It's my cow. Well, he gave the cow to me. So they went to the king. Please resolve this conflict. And that's the BBT painting on the right, the two brahmanas with the one cow. And so the king tried to make a peacemaker. I'll give you 10 cows. I'll give you 20 cows. Take 20 cows. No, I want that one cow. And the one who was the original recipient of the cow cursed him. I curse you, you become a lizard. So at the end of his life, he was taken to the court of Yamaraj. There's like a very interesting description. Here's this is commentary. In the commentary, someone is not to be brought. Yamaraj tells the Yamadutas, don't bring someone who has placed their head at the lotus feet of Vishnu. So King Nrga was a bhakta, so he shouldn't have been brought. Based upon that instruction from Yamaraj, he shouldn't have been brought. This is commentary on what the whole story is, the King Nrga story. He shouldn't have been taken to Yamaraj, but he was taken to Yamaraj. And the reason he was taken to Yamaraj is because of his lack of faith, arthavad. That's the explanation given by Jiva Goswami and the commentators on this little passage. But it's the whole story is narrated in a simple form in the Bhakti Sandarbha. So Yamaraj said, okay, you become a lizard, and voila, he became a lizard. But he was given this dispensation, oh, please, I did all that. So you become a lizard in Dwarka. So what happened was the sons of Krishna were playing, not in Dwarka, but some field distant from Dwarka, and they were playing ball. Boys will play ball sometimes. And the ball bounced around and fell into a well. And so they wanted to get the ball from the well. They saw it was a dry well. And down at the bottom of the dry well, they saw this lizard as well as the ball. And they tried this means, that means, the other means, to get the ball. And they had a nice idea. Let's capture the lizard, bring the lizard back home. We keep him as a pet. But they couldn't reach him. So they went back to Dwarka and told Krishna, can you help us? Can we get this lizard as a pet? Now, apparently there's a certain name for it. He wasn't just like one, because coming into the house, I saw a little lizard running across the porch. Huh? Yeah, but this guy was a big guy. They have a special name for the big guys. Like, I forget, there's some name. There's one in Sanskrit, and there's a name in English, and there's a certain kind of lizard, like, big guy. Not iguana, big, really big. Something. Big one. I heard the name a couple of times, but I forgot the name. So it was one, a really big guy. So Krishna knew what to do. Krishna came, and he made his arm real long. That's what the painting is on the left. And when he reached in and touched the lizard, guess what? The lizard became King Nrga. And everyone's astonished. These are Pradyumna and, the boys his age, Krishna's sons. And Samba and this one, that one. So the king told the story of how he became a lizard, because Krishna wanted to know. Krishna knew, but on behalf of everybody else that wanted to know, he asked and he told the story. And it's because of, he didn't say the reason was because of his artavad. They said the reason was he was cursed by a brahmana who he tried to persuade to take 10 cows, 20 cows instead of the one cow, but he cursed me to become a lizard, so I became a lizard. And Krishna freed him. So the narration is told by Jiva Goswami, the consequence of offense. One of the 10 offenses against the holy name is to consider exaggeration. The holy name is, the glories are exaggeration. But it's not just the chanting of the holy name. He was thinking bhakti itself is, the glories are exaggeration. And to underscore it, Jiva Goswami tells another story. You want to hear another story? Here we go, another story. The story is a story of King Satadhanu, who doesn't say what he's the king of, but he had a queen. Her name is Shaivya. So the two, king and queen, were Vaishnavas, and they wanted to observe Kartik Vrata. So one of the procedures in Kartik Vrata was to go to a sacred place and bathe in the Ganges, and there was a certain vrata that you wouldn't speak. You just, there's certain vows, what you wouldn't eat, what you wouldn't speak, what you would do, what you wouldn't do. So they were doing all the do's and avoiding the don'ts, except when they went to the bank of the Ganges, the king saw a friend of his martial arts teacher. This is Vishnu Purana. And he, out of respect for his martial arts teacher, he started having a conversation with his friend. And it turned out his friend was a dacoit. It was like, a low-class man. And the wife was not going to say anything because you're not supposed to say something during this vrata. But she kind of did her hand motions and he just kept going on. So according to Vishnu Purana, she looked at the sun and offered prayers to the sun god to forgive her for the sin. And then they went, after their bath, they went back to the palace and until the end of their life, and the king died first, and the queen entered into the funeral pyre of the king. Vishnu Purana says, in his next life, he became a dog. Because he spoke to a low-class person when he wasn't supposed to speak at the side of a sacred river, and he made an offense performing the Kartik Vrata. It's not don't perform Kartik Vrata, but That was the consequence, according to Vishnu Purana. And the queen, when she took her next birth, she took birth as the daughter of the king of Kashi. The narration goes, when she became of marriageable age, her father wanted her to marry a prince from another kingdom. But she didn't want to marry this prince from another kingdom. So she didn't marry. And she went into a distant place, engaged in deep meditation, and she then was able to remember her previous life and what had happened, how she became what she became. And she also was able to divine or discern what happened to her husband. And she realized in her meditation that her husband had become a dog. And so she sought the dog. She found the dog, Vishnu Purana said, and she took the dog into a private place and told the dog, "Do you know how you became a dog? You know, we were husband and wife in our previous life, and you did this and you did that." And he was so distressed. He had this realization of what a foolish person he was to not follow the proper vratas for Kartik Vrata. And so he went to a mountainside and jumped off the mountain and died. The dog died. And in his next life, became a jackal. And then the same procedure. She did her meditation. She realized her new husband, or husband had become now a jackal, and she found the jackal and told the jackal, and the whole cycle. Then a wolf, and then a vulture, then a crow, then a crane, then a peacock. And each time she did the same. So apparently that, animals are born more quickly because she's still a princess. She's not married yet. And she each time would tell this creature who he was in his previous life, and he died and so forth. Then finally, when he became peacock, this is how the story ends from Vishnu Purana. King Janak performed an Ashvamedha yagya. At the conclusion of the yagya, the king took the ritual bath and also sprinkled some of the sanctified water on the peacock. And the result, the peacock in his next birth became the son of King of Janak. Doesn't say what his name was. When he had grown to become a young man, princess was still unmarried, and they married. At the end of life, they attained Vaikuntha. Lived happily ever after. Nice story, huh? Jiva Goswami, Vishnu Purana. And he's telling both of these histories, King Nrga and King Satadhanu, to illustrate what happens if there's offense. Even one who is a performer of bhakti. And there's the different kinds of offenses, but offense. The principle is offense. And then he goes into a very nice thing that takes another 6 anucheds to describe. There are signs how you can tell somebody in their previous life they've made an offense because they show symptoms in this life. And he lists 5 items and spends the rest of those anucheds describing them. And the first one is the opposite of straightforwardness, or crookedness. Kautilyam. And then anuched after anuched after anuched gives examples of each of these. So the first 2, kautilyam, crookedness. Then lack of faith. First crooked, then faith wanes, or becomes less. Then absorption in things that detract one from faith in Bhagavan. And then, number 4, slackening of bhakti. Sound familiar? Laxity? Slackening of bhakti? Sound familiar? So he's indicating from Anucheda 141, laxity prevents one from becoming accomplished in rati or bhava bhakti. But where's that laxity come from? You know, for any one of us, if there's intermittent, we were using these terms this morning, if there's intermittent enthusiasm and waning of enthusiasm, or enthusiastic devotional service and slackening of that devotional service, it has behind it some aparad. It's an outcome. Or say, take it the other way. If there's offenselessness, then there isn't going to be slackening. So beware of offenses. And then the final one is pride. So we're going to go through each one, starting with these two contrasting qualities, starting with crookedness. That's the opposite of simplicity. We value simplicity. It is a valuable quality for a devotee. Being simple, not dull, or you know, not that kind of simple, but simple, as opposed to crooked, or straightforward, as opposed to not being straightforward. Here's in a reference that he makes on this point of Kautilya. Parashar Muni in Skanda Purana says, impure fools who are crooked do not develop bhakti, chanting, or remembering of Govinda. Pretty short, simple. Bhaktir bhavati govinde kirtanam smaranam tata. Those don't develop when there's crookedness. And in Anucheda 153, Jiva Goswami, gives the following example from Mahabharata. There's a painting, very beautiful painting. There's Krishna in the royal assembly in Hastinapur. You know, there's a light shining on Duryodhana. And this section is describing, Mahabharata is describing, Krishna came as a peace messenger. No, where Krishna came from wasn't Dwarka. Krishna was visiting in what's the palace? Not Hastinapur. Indraprastha, thank you. Thank you. So Krishna was visiting the Pandavas in Indraprastha. And, you know, the Pandavas didn't want battle. They wanted a peaceful solution. In particular Yudhishthira, but others wanted a peaceful solution. So they decided, let's ask Krishna to go as a peace messenger. So Krishna went as a peace messenger. And it was known in Hastinapur, Krishna's coming as a peace messenger. So what did Duryodhana do? He made this grand reception and decorated the city and festoons and blah, 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 blah. Really decked it out. And he wanted to appeal to Krishna's finer sentiments. They're flattering him. Like, you know, that's going to win Krishna, right? So the scene is, Duryodhana had planned a big feast, and he requested, because Krishna had just arrived and received, you know, in an appropriate manner and so forth, and given a nice seat, and he publicly made this request: please have lunch at my home, my palace. And Krishna replied, this is what's the reference here, 2 reasons. Well, there's 2 reasons why somebody would eat. One is if they're hungry. And I'm not hungry. And another reason is, even if you're not hungry, if someone is offering an invitation with love, then you may accept the invitation because it's offered with love. But in your case, there's no love. Although you've made this big, fancy arrangement, it's manipulative only. It's crooked. Because you despise the Pandavas. and I love the Pandavas. You don't love me because you despise the Pandavas. So the answer is no. I'm not hungry, and there's no love. But I'll go where there is love, even though I'm not hungry. So where did he go? Yeah. And you know what happened when he went to his home. His wife gave him banana peels. Because, anyway, there's details and details. So, crookedness of Duryodhana is an indicator Jiva Goswami is pointing because of offense. Now, you offend the Pandavas, you're offending Krishna. You offend the pure devotee, you offend those who are dear to Krishna, you're offending Krishna. So he's an offender, from way back, but he's an offender. And then, consequently, sequentially, there's a lack of faith. So, crookedness, lack of faith. And he points to, Jiva Goswami points to, the same scene. So that the next day, after he had arrived, there's this assembly in the assembly hall in Hastinapur. And Krishna comes as a peace messenger. And he publicly advised in Duryodhana's presence to ask Duryodhana, your son, you're the king, or because you're blind, he's acting as the king, ask him to give the kingdom back to the Pandavas, because religiously and rightfully, they're the heir of the throne. And publicly, Dhritarashtra said, I can't do that, because he's too stubborn. He's obstinate and stubborn, and he won't. That was his excuse. So then Krishna went on saying, all right, he won't give the kingdom, give them 5 states, give them 5 cities, give them 5 villages. And Duryodhana is with his arms crossed his chest saying, no, no, there must be war. I cannot live on the same planet with those Pandavas. There must be war. And then cheers from his group. So, as a last resort, Krishna made an arrangement to meet with Dhritarashtra privately. And he urged privately, there was someone that leaked what the private conversation was about, because Duryodhana found out. But Krishna advised Dhritarashtra, the entire Kaurava population will be destroyed because of this obstinacy of your son. So my recommendation is, put him in prison. And otherwise you'll lose your entire kingdom. He and you will lose your entire kingdom and all the citizens. So Duryodhana found out what Krishna had spoken. So what did Duryodhana do? He went to his 2 buddies, Karna and Dushasana. Do you know what he said? Rah, 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 rah. So they decided the next morning, when Krishna came into the assembly hall, we're going to tie him up and toss him in jail. Right? So then Krishna knew, and when they came forward with their ropes, he waited till they did their dirty deed. And he first he smiled, and then he laughed really loudly, and then he showed his universal form right in the public assembly, right before the eyes of Duryodhana and his buddies. And they stepped back. Krishna withdrew his universal form, and he departed. That was the end of the peace treaty or effort. They were diabolical. So the statement being made by Jiva Goswami, making reference to this Mahabharata story, oh Krishna, Duryodhana had lack of faith, despite Krishna showing his universal form. In contrast, Arjuna saw his universal form, And he didn't have, this is... Duryodhana's response was he had a magic trick. He showed something by magic, that's all. We don't pay attention to him. That's Duryodhana. So the second, from crookedness to lack of faith. And a second example, another story, from Vishnu Purana, he quotes Prahlad Maharaj as saying, "It's not by my own power that the tusks of these elephants, which were as sharp as the tips of a thunderbolt, got smashed. It is only the effect of continuous remembrance of Bhagavan Janardana. His continuous remembrance destroyed all the calamities that I was subjected to, including these tusks." So he had faith in contrast to the lack of faith in Duryodhana or others that are performers of offense. Because the performance of offense is it diminishes faith in the holy name or bhakti itself. So if you go back to that list, we'll go back to the list. Third in the list, absorption in things that detract one from faith in Bhagavan. And the example is Bharat Maharaj. And the example, in many cases, it's very unusual that some that attains the stage of Bhava Bhakti falls. And the answer that's given, the explanation that's given, is not he can't fall except in the case where there was it doesn't identify what the offense was, but by some prior offense. And for that reason, he slackened in his bhakti, and he became attached to the deer. Here's a verse that Jiva Goswami refers to. Bharat Maharaj, this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5. Bharat Maharaj was overwhelmed by an uncontrollable desire, which was manifest in the form of the deer. Due to the fruitive results of his past deeds, that's the language in the Bhagavatam, the BBT translation, the result of his past deeds, but specifically commentary says it's an offense. He made some offense, doesn't identify what it was, and he's reaping the fruit of that offense. His bhakti got blocked by that offense. He fell down from mystic yoga, austerity, and worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he was on this most elevated platform. And then slackening of bhakti. We heard a little bit about slackening of bhakti. Maybe more than I had intended, but the laxity was the word that was used in Anucheda 141. And here's some commentary. Because of this slackening of bhakti, one becomes increasingly fixated on happiness and distress related to the threefold miseries. The happiness or the miseries of these threefold things. Body and mind, other living beings. So this is very similar to what Damayanti was sharing this morning. The bodily conception, that little outpouring that you shared with all of us. This is, a slackening of bhakti comes because of that. Too much. It's like we take care of these things. We're not negligent, not irresponsible, but we're not. The happiness and distress that we experience, that we live by, is not determined by the configuration of these things. Rather, it says disinterested in such types of material happiness and distress. And then from the slackening of bhakti, the remaining one is pride. And he gives as the example, there's a long anucheda about this one, but pride and daksha, and because he was who he was, and because his daughter was married to Lord Shiva, and so there's Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma sitting in a seat of honor, and there's Daksha wailing about, my daughter's married to this person, speaking, vilification of Lord Shiva because of his pride. And he had some problems as a result. He lost his head, literally. And then took another birth, and then it made the same, because his pride wasn't taken away when his head was taken away. He continued in his next birth. And so pride is very dangerous. But it's number 5 out of this list, and it starts with crookedness, not being straightforward. And then next and next and next and next. Those of you that like Raghunath Das Goswami and his writings, you know Manashiksha. In the first verse of Manashiksha, he gives a formula. How, if oh my dear mind, if you desire eternal residence in Braja, absorbed in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, he gives 2 requirements. The 2 requirements is giving up pride. Hitva dambam. Sada. Always give up pride in all circumstances. It's the number 1 debilitator, pride. And another is this necessity of taking unprecedented shelter, with enthusiasm and special care to exalted Vaishnavas that have this capacity themselves. So here's the first verse. It's got a nice recording. I hope the sound system works.
Guru goshte goshtalayi susujane busuragane svamantre shinamni vrajanavayuvadvanvasharane sadadambam hitva kururatim apurvamatitaram aye svantar bratash chatubirabiyache dritapada.
Lines. The third line. Sada dam bam hitva. Hitva means give up. Dam bam is pride. Sada, always give up pride. Completely give it up. And if you to get this stage of rati, you apurva matitaram, with unprecedented and excessive. That's how it's translated by at least Bhanu Swami. It's very strong attachment for the devotees of the Lord, and the further verses describe which devotees, etc. So now we're going back to Bhakti Sandarbha 153, because we've covered the topic of how offense can lead to debilitation of bhakti and different stages, and then he makes this big summary. Truth is blocked by 100 obstacles. Austerity is blocked by 1,000 obstacles. Bhakti to Govinda is blocked by 10,000 obstacles, if one is insincere. From Vishnu Dharma Purana. And commentary on this is Vishwanath. The whole bhakti process can be summarized as follows. The advanced devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord in a perfectly offenseless manner and is friendly to everyone can actually relish transcendental taste of glorifying the Lord. Now, this is specific to chanting, But the results of such realization is reflected in the cessation of material desires, etc., which is very similar to that verse that we heard this morning, 7:7:33. Prahlada is speaking to his classmates, the overcoming the six faults, Shadvargas, or the root of karma, those six. Same here, cessation of material desires. So karma is I want to enjoy, and there are different labels to what that enjoyment is, but it's not real enjoyment, it's disease. And bhakti has the power to remove that disease. Cessation of all material desires, etc. And so that's Anucheda 153 to 159. Very interesting section. Here's that little list again. Crookedness, lack of faith in scripture or lack of faith in bhakti, absorption in things that detract one from firm faith in Bhagavan, slackening of bhakti, and pride in executing acts of bhakti. And I just added one more slide because I like the message. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur with his nice beard during the Kartik Vrata. When you chant with your fingers on the mala, you should feel that your fingers are touching the lotus feet of Krishna. Now, I don't feel that, but that's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's giving some directive. Okay. So there we are, Anucheda 153 from Bhakti Sandarbha. And the importance of straightforwardness or simplicity as opposed to crookedness and other consequences of offense. And the benefit that can come from shadow bhakti, that can, because bhakti, as long as it's without offense. I mean, the mouse that got his mouth burned and lost his life didn't make an offense. He was crawling on the altar, licking up the ghee. Probably was like a strong mouse, lots of ghee, until he finished. Yes, Madhumati, it was time for questions. What time are we supposed to end? Because we started at 6. 7:30. Okay.
The examples that you gave, Maharaj, in both the cases of King Nrga and the king and the queen.
Yes.
In both the cases, we see that lack of bhakti or offense. One was not having enough faith, and the other one was that they committed some offense.
So the lack of faith is an offense. He was thinking it's exaggeration. The glories of bhakti are artavad. That's one of the offenses against chanting of the holy name. It's one of the offenses against devotional service. The glories of devotional service, it's hype, it's hyperbole, it's exaggeration, it's not real.
So in both those cases, they became a lower birth. And our understanding, at least my understanding, has been that this process of bhakti will protect one from the most
lower birth.
And so how do we understand, and especially like, yeah, I mean, I'm like, okay, commit so many offenses while we're performing, whether our Kartika or whether our sadhana, and here the person, they just take a lower birth. So it's kind of a little discouraging.
Well, it's enlightening. Enlightening in this sense, let's put your question in a different light. That statement that you're guaranteed not taking a lower birth, is there a qualifier or not? Supposing you're an offensive person, you do devotional service, and you're an offensive person. Guaranteed human birth. There's consequences to offense. And did that consequence nullify he, in both cases, they again got the opportunity for devotional service and achieved spiritual perfection in both cases. But there was interrupted. They got a lower birth, but their bhakti wasn't destroyed, and there was a consequence for their offense. What do you think?
Well, a lot of things are going in the head.
Okay.
Well, we have Bharat Maharaj, then he takes a lower birth. But like you said, the result is, he attains perfection. Then we have example of Ajamil. I mean, the other person sees Yamaraj, but Ajamil, who did all what he did, he doesn't get to see Yamaraj, even though he just chanted
Narayana.
Yeah, Narayana, and he wasn't calling out to Narayan. But then I understand that he wasn't. He was chanting in an offenseless mood.
No. Abhas.
Abhas, yes. And so how do we? It's just some different. And then we see the mouse. Just goes.
Bhakti-abhasa and namabhasa are powerful. That is one of the lessons in Bhakti Sandarbha. Without offense, Bhakti-abhasa is very powerful, even from a non-human species. Bhakti-abhasa is very powerful, without offense. The emphasis goes to beware of offense. It's serious business. Serious business. Should I give some examples? I mean, from scripture, and then real life. We don't. Who can say somebody or other in ISKCON offended another Prabhu? Is there consequence? Guaranteed a human life because they did a little devotional service, or they a lot of devotional service, or whatever. But they're offensive. There's consequence. Now, what's that consequence? We don't decide. Some higher authority decides, but there's consequence. So, what that consequence is? Higher authorities decide. In these two cases, two very authoritative scriptures, Vishnu Purana and Srimad Bhagavatam, they had the consequence that they got. A curse of a brahmana. He became a lizard. And it was upheld because something can't be without sanction of Krishna, it can't happen. So Krishna sanctioned it. He who says, guaranteed a human birth, that means implicit without offense. What about if there's offense? That same guarantee is no longer a guarantee. Better watch out.
That's pretty heavy.
Yeah, it is. It is. Here's one that I have come to appreciate. Dvidvida, who became not just an animal, but he became an enemy of Krishna. And what was his offense? His offense was he offended Lakshmana twice. And because of offending Lakshmana twice, he became a demon. You know the story. Okay, so there's consequence to offense. It's not rules don't cover over offense. Now, then comes the next question: what to do if you've made some offense? That's that's in the upcoming Anucheds, but that's another topic yet. But there's consequence for offense. And it's severe. It can be severe. Someone's got their hand up behind you.
Maharaj, on this same topic, can we see that also that Lord protected their consciousness? I mean, how many lizards would remember why they became lizard? If you're in the body of a lizard, you can remember that before you were a king. Yeah.
Yes.
And also that how many lizards would directly get
and also what?
That elevation from the Lord, that he became a king.
He was rescued. Krishna rescued him.
Rescued him. So.
But how many circumstances are Krishna's going to reach in the bottom of a well by extending his arm and pick him up?
Yeah. And then ultimately that consequence was there, but then that consequence was used for that soul's elevation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He didn't lose Krishna's mercy. He just got a lower life form. Yeah. But she's questioning the lower life form part based upon something from Scripture. You want to go at it again?
I guess in one sense, having a lower form after committing an offense might be easier because you're not going to commit any offense. I mean, here we see the example of the mouse. He has got lower form and he is not committing offense. So in one sense, it's good, I guess. You get a lower form and you get the mercy and go back to Godhead.
Well, he had another life of devotional service before he went back to Godhead. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have a list of questions, but I'll pick one. On one of the slides a few back, there was, in quotes, making a show of constantly chanting the holy name. And I'm just wondering, what exactly does that mean? And do you have an example?
What exactly does which mean?
Making a show of constantly chanting the holy name.
Making a show of?
Constantly chanting the holy name.
Constantly chanting.
Because in another sense, those who are crooked don't chant. Or if they do chant, it's
well, there are persons who believe in that statement of the Scripture, but they don't have the quality, but they believe in the statement of Scripture, and so they perform the activity as if they had belief in the statement of the Scripture. And they do a behavior, but they don't have faith in it. They imitate Haridas Thakur. And then advertise themselves, because there's a purpose. They advertise themselves as being an elevated person when they're not. And they sometimes do bad stuff.
And then a really quick backup question. We've made it clear that straightforwardness and simplicity is something to work toward.
Yes.
And then on the opposite end, there's crookedness. And I think in one of the slides it said, just make sure, those who chant and are crooked, my question is, those who chant and are crooked, is that performative or are they just not crooked?
Well, it depends on the person. It's not a clear cut. It depends. Sri Vrindavan.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for going so deep into this issue, this aspect.
You're mumbling.
As I was saying, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
And
got that
I
part.
was just, the pastime which is on the board, King Satadhanu and his queen, I was just wondering, when before Kartik begins, we take vows, we take different vows. We will do this, I will go to Mangal Arati every day, I will do this, I'll do this. So I'm thinking, is it better to not really take a vow and do as much as we can? Because if we take a vow and not do it every time, it's an offense.
Well, it doesn't clarify. Because it doesn't clarify, I can say what I understand about the subject without that clarification from commentators. there are standards for those who take Kartik vows and other types of vows, that the do's and the do nots. Like Mauna Vrata is part of that, and taking bath and the sacred, there's things. So they did some of the things, but some of the other things associating with a low-class person, a dacoit type person, while they're performing this vrata, getting dirty while becoming purified. It was an offense. So, and she knew it, but she didn't say, because she's the queen, and also she's Mauna Vrata. So she purified herself of that sin of being involved in that whole affair, but her husband didn't. So now back to your question. When there's really firm vows for those that rest upon, they're not saying that they're devotees, you're a devotee. And the persons can observe Kartik, they're not Vishnu Bhaktas. And then there's rules for those people. And then there's different standards that one can, so if you're in that position, and that's what you want, then you better follow the rules. Now for you do the best you can. It's like chant without offense. So if I make an offense, I'm gotta get spanked, so I better not chant, right?
Maharaj, I had one more thing which I wanted to ask. The stage 4, which we're talking about in this session, slackening of bhakti.
Yeah.
And I had a question this morning which I didn't bring up, but I think it kind of got answered, and I wanted to just present it to you if I'm having the right understanding. That laxity in bhakti, like if you have to have unalloyed devotion, unflinching devotion. So I was hoping that you would elaborate upon it. But when we heard these points which you made, one becomes increasingly fixated in happiness related to like adhyatmika,
Your voice,
adhibhautik.
you're speeding up.
Okay. We have these things which you pointed out, that if one becomes increasingly fixated in adhyatmik, adhibhautik and adhidaivik, that is actually taking us away from bhakti, slackening our bhakti.
Well, because your happiness is out there somewhere.
Right.
And unhappiness is out there somewhere. As opposed to the real unhappiness is being disconnected from Krishna. And I'm not looking at inside, I'm looking outside.
So in that sense, it does answer the question that we are not being, we don't have unalloyed devotion, we are not unflinched. So I was looking at what's the meaning of unflinching.
Okay.
You have to be steadfast, uncompromising, relentless.
Yeah.
So all those things, if we are that in bhakti, then we'll not be so much connected with this bug,
There's also
this
stages
dog.
to get there. Supposing I'm not there yet. That's a lot of us. I'm not there yet. So now what? You move in that direction. You have that as a goal, and you work towards the goal. And how do you work? In little steps towards the goal. But you stay fixed. The fixation or fixity is upon the goal. And to my capacity, I'm striving. I'm taking little steps towards that goal. And I don't falter. Even there's some obstacle or some hardship or something. To my capacity, that's, big qualifier. To my capacity, I continue moving. I may take 2 steps back, or I may pause, but I keep moving, depending upon the circumstance. And because I want to reach that goal. No, it's a goal orientation, but then the goal orientation loses the focus on me, and it becomes Krishna. It's not about my attainment. It's about Krishna should be pleased. That's unalloyed. Okay?
So Maharaj, would we say just the last word? I would like to say something that, so our take home message for me would be, as long as my intention
Yes.
is
Yes.
in the right place,
Yes.
I should keep my
Yes.
intention pure.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Thank you,
bhakti.
Maharaj.
I may not be there yet, but my intention is that Krishna should be pleased. Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam. That's it. Ragamika wants to do something. Oh, really? Okay, I'm fine. Okay. Our hostess, she wants to say something.
Hostess is somebody else. I'm back to the story with the dog. So
You like the story?
I like the story, but I have a question. Like, if you see someone is making offense, or maybe I'm the one who is making offense, or sometimes husband and wife, we are quarreling, and I'm like, you're offensive toward me, you're going down. And maybe I see that person is going down or the other way. What's there to do to stop it? Because obviously telling the dog you made the offense didn't help. He became jackal. So what is it that helps before you get to peacock and get sprinkled with water? So, not to wait so long.
You have a good spouse. That's what you can do. Elevate it,
That's
just
like
like
the
the
closest-
Nagapatnis in Kaliya. Like Nagapatnis and Kaliya. They were his big asset. So, back to, what can you do? You don't dismiss the association. This question you're asking was asked in a different way earlier today. And you are in association that's not the kind of ideal association. Somehow there's less than ideal association, somehow, whatever those somehows might be. So you try to align yourself with Guru Sadhu Shastra and good association. Good association means sadhu-like persons. Sadhu-like in the sense that they're exemplary individuals who are headed for Krishna. And you just keep the association with those persons as much as you can, or as often as you can, or qualitatively as you can. And you continue to be, as you're forgiving of yourself, of your shortcomings, you be forgiving of the other person's shortcomings, and don't judge the person by their shortcomings. You try to see them as a spirit soul that's on their way to Krishna also, in a different trajectory than yours. That's okay, but they're on their way to Krishna. Let me honor that. It's like there's respect. In one word, respect. Don't lose respect because of a situation, and even an ongoing situation. Don't lose respect for the soul that's within. That's a Vaishnava relationship. And then keep the association of wholesome persons, sadhu-like persons, as much as you can, as your circumstance permits. And value that, cherish that association. Hold it dear to you. And then try to model it in different circumstances that life sends your way. Okay? Easier said than done, but that's what to do. Okay, but don't read who's saying it, just read what they say. Somebody's saying something else.
This question probably referring to king and the lizard.
Okay, Nrga.
Why did king try to resolve the issue by bribing both Brahman with more cows instead of stating fact and beg for forgiveness?
Well, it doesn't say he didn't ask for forgiveness. He just said he looked for a practical solution. Please forgive me for this. It wasn't intentional. The cow wandered back into the herd, and I didn't notice it. So, there's no intentional offense, so please forgive me for this. So we don't know what else he said. We know he's not just bribing. He's trying to pacify. You want a cow? Here's 10. No, I want that one. So it's kind of irascible, unreasonable. Poor king. He just gives cows away, and he gave the same cow away. So be reasonable, Mr. Brahmana. Forgive him and don't curse him to become a lizard. But it was a plan that sanctioned by the Supreme Lord. So we don't know all of what he said or they said. We know that little bit. Next.
That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure there's some questions way in the back. Way in the back there.
Well, regarding offenses, if you make an offense, is there a way to counteract it?
Oh, yes.
If it's unintentional?
Yeah. And then that's the next undershade. Maybe next time when I come, we'll do that one. But, Madhurya Kandambini, you're familiar?
I haven't read it.
Yeah, it's a nice book. It's a nice book. It's very simple, too, and well written. It depends on the circumstance, but one of the remedies is you go to the person, just like Lord Vishnu to Durvasa Muni. You go to Maharaj Ambarish, fall at his feet, and ask for his forgiveness. So if it's another person, Vaishnava or another person, you're accountable for your offense. So you go to that person who may have felt offense. Now, here's another one. I'm expecting this other one, so I'll say it anyways. What happens if you say something, do something, and you have no idea that the other person feels offended by something you said or did? That's a common question. So what do you do? And Prabhupada's answer is, therefore, vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha. We say that every day, sincerely, not just mechanically, and we're asking the universe out there of those who may feel offended by something that I said or did, which wasn't intentional, but they felt offended. And I'm responsible. So I don't want them to feel so. And then if supposing they don't forgive and don't forgive and don't forgive, then you chant Hare Krishna. But you first go to that step of, so the remedy, it's paraphrasing what's coming up in the next Anushades, is continuous devotional service with the intention that Krishna should be pleased by that devotional service, not just to neutralize the reaction for your mistakes, but Krishna should be pleased. Not to do something to get something, but just Krishna should be pleased. And strive for that kind of bhakti, and that's the antidote for offense. Okay? There's some hand behind you.
Thank you. I have a comment and a question, please. And the comment is that these levels of stages of falling from bhakti, there's one devotee was giving class, actually it was Lakshmi Nrsinga Prabhu, and he used the acronym CLASP, CLASP, just like to help to remember what each one stands for. And so I just wanted to share that. And it gives the kind of visual clasped. Like when I'm doing these things, I remain, clasped, attached to material world, to my offenses, whatever. And then the question was, so when, like if I'm reading, we read like in the Bhagavatam, where Prabhupada says and purports that the devotees, or maybe it's don't take animal birth, or they don't have to go and see Yamaraj. So should I be thinking that he's speaking of certain level of devotees and not just...
No, it's all devotees, but levels of devotees can make offense. And my understanding is, your question is different from, but similar to Madhumati's question. And my understanding from this is not taking an animal form, not coming before Yamaraj and all of that is for those who haven't made an offense. And that's right within the purport. The commentary by Jiva Goswami on this topic is, normally speaking, King Nrga should not have been taken to Yamaraj. He was taken to Yamaraj. And what was the reason? Yes, he was the devotee. He had gone to devotional service, therefore he shouldn't have gone to Yamaraj and shouldn't have become a lizard. But because of this Artavad mistake, therefore he was brought to Yamaraj and he became a lizard. The curse of the Brahmana became what the Brahmana had cursed. And he took this lower birth because of offense. So, offense is real stuff. It's real stuff. We should concern ourselves with offense and help people if we know somebody that has such a tendency, to caution them. And, to whatever degree they're willing to take caution, to help them get beyond it, because it's serious business. I could say it 20 times and it wouldn't be enough. Offense is serious business. Okay. Over here.
It's probably a matter of my not recalling the detail of King Nrga's pastime, but is it explicitly stated that he expressed a lack of, or he thought that bhakti was exaggerated?
No, it's in Jiva Goswami's writings.
Oh. We don't find it in the Krishna book where
I don't find it in the Krishna book.
Mood. Oh, I see. That's why I was wondering. Okay. And then also related to Govinda Mohini's question back there, gosh, when we're married for many years and become familiar with someone, offenses can be so...
Piece of cake.
Yeah. So really...
Karnapur's eyebrows are going way up his forehead.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for bringing up this topic.
Up front here.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. In case of Ajamila, when he was, he chanted the name.
Ajamila now.
Ajamil,
okay.
Yeah. And in the previous lecture, as you were mentioning, that the non-devotees, when they chant, so what category of chanting is that? Is it namabhas or is
it's namabhas?
Okay, so they get
there's a certain category of namabhas.
Okay.
There's different Sanskrit names for different categories of namabhas, and his was one. Unintentional.
Okay.
Meaning something else, but saying. So that's a certain category of namabhas, and it's powerful.
Okay.
It's not offense; it's abhas. So.
Okay, and one more. I was just thinking that, as Jiva Goswami said, like bhakti is difficult to attain, right? So in that, one of the things
Bhava bhakti is difficult to obtain.
Okay.
Bhava bhakti.
Yeah. So one may have like no attachment, basically, to the holy name or whatever. So is it possible that one may have faith but
Yes.
no attachment?
Yes.
So, but how?
That's
can
all,
it
that's
get
most
better?
of us in this room.
Okay.
It's certainly possible.
Okay. So just continue with the
Nrga.
process.
Nrga, no attachment.
Yes.
Anurag, no attachment.
Okay.
So what's your question? Is that
So
you answer the question?
is, yes, but like just so I think that okay, just continue with the intention and continue with the process. That's what it is, right?
You're mumbling. How to get there? Oh, for Shikshastika 3. That Nanaraga is the end of Shikshastika 2. Go to Shikshastika 3. Trinadapi Sunichena. You know that one. That one.
Okay. Thank you, Gurmaj.
Amanina Amanadena. Kirtaniya Sada. Kirtaniya Sada. So there's qualifiers, but the Kirtaniya Sada. Keep chanting Sada with those qualifiers. And you're not there yet. That's okay. Strive.
Hare Krishna, thanks for the lecture. How do you caution somebody about committing offenses, practically speaking?
Slap him around. Set a good example. Set a good example, and give teachings and set a good example. And then people, they have beans in their ears and they just can't hear. I know some people like that. Do you know some people like that? I'll trade you some if you don't. So you set an example and you give the proper teachings and continue to set an example.
So it's not something we say; it's something we do.
But it's both.
Both.
You have to say, but you also have to do. You can not one without the other. You model it. Our hostess wants to. Huh? Oh, you're sitting at the computer. I thought that's not your computer? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Aparad. Hostess Aparad. Please forgive me. Okay. Okay. You're very kind.
What was my question? So you were saying to set good example, but sometimes, let's say I'm dressing the deities and I want to set good example and I do try my best and I do, but then sometimes not everybody wants to follow. Indeed, between us girls, we have a tendency to say like, oh no, I'm not doing like so.
She's a good co-host. Very animated. You should be part of the drama team, along with the Pujari team. Oh, you are? Okay, good. Well, what you described is not unique. specifically even, on the altar issues or relationships. When there's two people that are doing, kitchen is another service, close service together. And then, something and something. And some sparks. It's just part of living in this world. So, what to do? That's the question, right? You continue your best to model the standard, and turn out a piece in each. You start with humility and pridelessness. You're not looking for a pat on the back or 5 gold stars on your report card or something like that. You're looking for Krishna should be pleased. So try to focus on what's important. And being very tolerant. Amanina manadena. So you cultivate those 4 shikshastra 3 points, and again and again and again, and keep doing it. And if it gets to be like egregious, then you can you have some options. You can ask the head pujari or another co-worker, not like whine and complain about that person that's like this because something. So not finger pointing or blaming, but some neutral person that can help resolve, or there's some options. Conflict resolution. There's some people that are skilled at that. You go to some of those people. So there's options. But, meanwhile, Shikshastra 3. Krishna is giving me an opportunity to be more tolerant and more humble and more pure by being more tolerant and more humble. I'm probably irritating them along with their irritating me. So, what can I do from my side to be, not just a peaceful co-worker, but, a model of Krishna should be pleased. What can I do to improve that dimension of my Krishna bhakti? And it doesn't mean, stop doing deity worship. It means self-improvement, bhakti, self-improvement. And guess what? The bell rang. Where time is over. So, some of you have been around. Here's a box of Mahaprasadam. And you just be very patient with me. Meander around, and you put your right hand out, and something will plop in your hand. Mahaprasadam from the deities in Detroit. Farmington Hills. You want to say something?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah. I'm going to say one more thing too. One more thing. I had an idea. I had 2 ideas. One of those 2 ideas is probably Tamahar, who had to leave because his health is he has limited strength. He liked very much, it took about 2 years to get him to do this. I shouldn't say that. We have a relationship, and his health has been down, and he didn't know if he could do it. But he wanted to do it, so we did it. So he and I have an idea. Let's do another one sometime. And this topic, Bhakti Sandarbha topic, was his topic. And then, what's the next time? So I thought, rather, he can just select a topic, and I'll be the companion, and we'll speak on the same topic. In general, a book or something, or something. But I was thinking, maybe it's better to ask you all, what topic would you like?
Two of them are saying Madhurya Kadamini.
I heard what they said. But that's vocal. So there was an idea that those of you that are here, and there's probably some people online, something like 20 people online. So we can send out a little something, little questionnaire, and you can respond. We'll just do what you all want. So what is another Bhakti Sandarbha, another Sandarbha, Madhurya Kadambini, or other? And we'll see, what happens. So we'll try to respond to what you all would like. And there's no time yet. I've got an idea, but let's see what you all come back with. And let's see what happens with Tamar's health and things like that. And the second is, many of you know, and if you don't know, you'll get to know Garuda Prabhu. So he and I did a little duet in Gitanagari. When many of you were over in Orlando, we were up in Gitanagari during the same weekend. And the topic was Krishna in Braja, or Krishna's Braja Leela, or something like that. And he did what he does. He has written a couple of books on the topic of Krishna's Rasa Leela dance, the 5 chapters of the Bhagavatam. And I spoke on what I spoke on. So he really liked it. He said, let's do this again. And said, maybe we can do it in Potomac because it's really, really close to where I live. And because he drove all the way from where he lives all the way to Gitanagari. So Potomac. And then he said, and maybe Alachua, because I have relatives in Alachua. I didn't ask him who your relatives are, but so we're looking for some dates in Alachua. So let's find some dates. I'll work on it. But, if our hostess is willing to host us with your co-hostesses, because it's a great space. It's a great space. It's a great space. But she's got to be here. Okay. Good for you. Even if she argues on the altar, it's okay. So at some time, 2026, at least 2 such sessions like this. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. So we'll little survey on what your preferences are, and we'll just say yes, whatever you say. Okay, now you're going to do a little announcement.
Yeah. On behalf of all the devotees, I would like to thank you, Maharaj, for walking us through some of the Anuchedas from this Bhakti Sandarbha of Jiva Goswami, and sharing your insights, your thoughts, your experiences, and your realizations. And also, I would like to thank everyone for asking such beautiful, enlivening, humorous questions, very thought-provoking. And thank you, Maharaj, for answering them so wonderfully. And we would like to... Okay. Yeah, one quick announcement. There was a sheet that was, in the morning, we were all giving our phone numbers and email IDs. If someone has not given, please try to give your name, your email ID. There is a form that was moving. Yeah. Yeah. So before you leave, or you can start those